President Macron, thank you very much for this wonderful way to kick us off. I noted that you had pairs of important words there to structure your argument. Credibility and consistency that we need to aim for, coercion and conflict that we need to avoid, coalitions and strategic autonomy as means to take on responsibility for our own security and avoid being dependent on others. That's a very rich menu, and you have very kindly agreed to take a couple of questions from the audience, and we will do that. And I see first hands already going up. We will take a few questions that the President will answer, and then eventually we will conclude and move to the dinner part. I think, is Evan Laxmana, if I can get a microphone. Yeah. From IISS Asia. There you go. Evan.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the speech. My name is Evan Laxmana from the IISS. I believe that one of the premises of France's Indo-Pacific strategy is that the Euro-Atlantic and the Indo-Pacific is a single theater. And if that single theater is a two-way street, how do you see France playing a leading role and picking up from what you said earlier regarding multiple crises? Right now, in the Indo-Pacific, there is a proliferation of security crises, ongoing challenges from India, Pakistan, Thailand, Cambodia, Myanmar to the South China Sea. How does France also hope to help ASEAN build a more robust regional security response to these particular crises? After all, their ability to address these current security crises is perhaps their preconditions to achieve strategic autonomy. Thank you.
You want to collect a few? Yeah. Shall we take two or three, and then you take them in a group? Yes. Okay. So I think Frank Gardner. I think I see. Can we get a microphone to Frank, please? Yeah. There we go. Frank.
Merci, Monsieur President. Frank Gardner from BBC, security correspondent. Do you see a military role for Europe in this region when it's got a full-scale war going on its own continent? I mean, Britain is sending an aircraft carrier here when it can't really afford to meet its own defense obligations in Britain.
Thank you very much. And if I can get a microphone here to the front. First row here, please. Microphone. Yeah, coming. Chung-Min Lee from Korea. And then maybe we'll take those three.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two quick questions, one nuclear on Europe. You have emphasized strategic autonomy throughout your presidency. If European NATO members ask you for nuclear protection, is France willing to provide your force de frappe to your European NATO allies? And number two, we will have a new Korean government in the next couple of days, and will be in office on Wednesday. Whoever wins the election, if the new Korean government asks your government for assistance and cooperation on building a South Korean nuclear-powered submarine, will France say oui or no? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's take those three as a bundle, and then we'll return and take a few more, Mr. President.
Thank you. As for the first, by the way, the two first questions were quite close, and with clearly common issues. I would not consider that fixing all the regional crises is a precondition of strategic autonomy, and we have to do both at the same time. And it's true for Europe, and it's true for Asia. Meaning we have to fix what's happening in Ukraine, but in parallel we have to strengthen our strategic autonomy. And you have to do the same. I think for the regional crisis you mentioned, the role of the European Union and some European countries, when they want or are involved in this crisis, is first to assist ASEAN and the key regional players to provide their help. This is what we did, for instance, on Myanmar. And we had this discussion this morning with Mr. Prime Minister on Myanmar, but the question now is much more at the Myanmar level, even if all the countries of the region did their best to promote a solution. But you're right that we have a multiplication of crises, and I would add threats. But I would not oppose the capacity of ASEAN to fix these different crises and the necessity to build strategic autonomy. The second remark, referring to your first question, is that we are working with ASEAN regarding the centrality of this organization in the context of our Indo-Pacific strategy with different approaches. First, procurement and capabilities. And we built some very strong partnerships with some key countries of the region, with our Rafale, but as well our submarines and so on. And this cooperation is not just a commercial cooperation, but it's clearly a strategic one involving a series of clear cooperation. Second, we have common exercises. From Pegasus in the air to the exercise we just deployed in the region with aircraft carriers. And so we multiply this exercise with several objectives: share operational culture, improve interoperability, but as well provide strategic signals and some deterrence vis-à-vis some key players. And this is the way we can deliver. As for your question, but this is as well a bridge towards the second question on the military credibility of the European in the region. Let's be clear. We will never sell what we cannot deliver. And if the elephant in the room is the day China decides a big operation against a country, will you intervene day one? I would be very cautious today, but everybody will be very cautious today. I think all the countries in this room, wherever they live, and in fact everybody. But let me be clear. I think our role is not to be a substitute to anybody, but our role is to work for ourselves to improve our strategic autonomy, meaning our own capacity to protect our soil, but through the cooperation we have to help the Asian countries to do the same for themselves and to reduce on both sides our dependencies. And we have to do it in a time where there is an increase of the threats and the strategic risks. So which means this is a very important step. I don't underestimate it. But as for the credibility of the Europeans, and perhaps more broadly, I would be very honest with you. If both the United States of America and the Europeans are unable to fix on the short run the Ukrainian situation, I think the credibility of both the US and the Europeans to pretend to fix any crisis in these regions will be very low. Let's be honest. Because till now, all of us said what happened in Ukraine is a clear violation of international law. What happened in Ukraine is unacceptable. Everything we describe for all the regional threats, not to mention them linked to China. And we are ready to help, to finance, to provide capabilities, but we are till now ready to sacrifice till the very last Ukrainian soldiers. Full stop. So I think our credibility is at stake in this point, and this is why everything is intercorrelated. As for, and thank you for the very accurate question. For the first one, I will obviously not provide such an answer. But I will tell you why. Because the credibility of the nuclear deterrence is based on the ambiguity. And I know it's very hard to understand sometimes, but it's very important to stick to this principle. And this is probably one of the weaknesses we have when you are democracies vis-à-vis some authoritarian regime. And this is probably a mistake we made at the very beginning of the conflict in Ukraine when we disclosed too many constraints vis-à-vis the opponents. And this is why, more than 1 year ago, in February 2024, in Paris, I request for restoring strategic ambiguity and stop excluding so many options from the European side. And I'm very happy about the very recent declarations made by the German Chancellor, which exactly did the same very recently. We need strategic ambiguity. The day you give, by the way, all the roadmap to your enemy, you reduce the efficiency of your deterrence capacity. But what I can say is that from the very beginning of the nuclear capacities in France, we integrated a European dimension. And we remain quite large and vague for good reasons. But in parallel, we are working hard and we will launch a new phase, a new era, and I will revert in the months to come on that, in order to have, perhaps with some European countries, a different approach. As for South Korea, I think this is a very fair question, and this question is very legitimate. If I were South Korean, it would be my first question. Which is, in fact, if, guys, you fail to contain the capacity of North Korea to get nuclear weapon, am I sure that I'm still safe? And am I sure the day I will be attacked, you will not fail to protect me? I think we should reopen the North Korean topic first. I think the big risk of the current environment is to open a new proliferation area. And this is why, for me, Iran is so critical. Because the day, de facto, we accept that, you will trigger a series of legitimate requests of a lot of other countries to get nuclear weapons. So this is why the US agenda on North Korea is so important. And because I will be clear, the Europeans don't have the capacity to be the one to negotiate and trigger such a negotiation. This is clearly the United States of America. And President Trump, during his first mandate, started to resume some discussions. And this is part of the strategic discussion we have to frame with the United States, because it's a fair approach to say we want to deliver less for the Europeans, and the Europeans have to take much more of their burden because we want to focus on some other issues. But my fair answer would be, I would prefer us collectively to contain much more the capacities and give you visibility on the North Korean capacities and helping you to get access to new ones.
Mr. President, thank you very much. I'm going to disappoint a few people now who have thought the floor, but time has marched on. And possibly I'm going to disappoint the President as well, because I know he is ready to answer more questions. But we'll draw this to a conclusion here. And let me invite everybody again to once more thank President Macron for this wonderful way of kicking off the Shangri-La Dialogue.
Thank you.